when am I going to awaken? Let's kind of finish this conversation. The reason I'm asking you to write the things that you find through the conversation we've had this morning, if you find that you're having any issues from where you're at today, just where you're at today, with any of the things that we've talked about, I'm wanting you to write those down, because we're just going to have time to flush those and a whole lot more, because we're going to switch subjects here in a moment, and I leave space because I'm positive that some of us are going to have some of the issues moving forward too. How close are we to waking up? The next question is things that we need to master. Are you able to be a conscious walker? And I hit the subject just briefly a couple of days ago, but a conscious walker really speaks about being able to not only not get caught in, the drama and things like that, but it's all about you being able to really manage your perception and not let. Perception is absolutely a human trait, and it is a trait of the ego. And it's amazing what types of perceptions we have in us that we can dislike. Such as one of the perceptions that I'm working through at this moment is I do not like the fact that if I am sitting in a car and I see a black man walk by, I do not like the fact that my reaction is to automatically lock the door. Have any of you had that? Maybe you grew up in a different place than I do. It's not about the person, right? It's this kind of, not just things that you learn from your parents and all of that stuff. There's a deeper influence that's moving through us. And we are stewards to help finally bring wholeness to these places where huge wounds have been for a long time. Perception. How quickly we as human beings take a look at somebody and automatically put them into some box or some category. Do you find that you do that? Whether you do it in jest or whether you do it, just whatever. How fast do you find, and again, I'm not just saying that these perceptions are things for you within your own personality, but a lot of the stuff you've got to recognize, it is washing through you. It is bringing stuff through you. How can we help wounds that are so strong between peoples of this planet? Even if you don't think that you have any genetic connection to different places that might, let's just say Israel and Palestine. We have two peoples who have been absolutely destroying each other for a really long time. How does any of that come whole? How do you bring wholeness to that heart that is bleeding? I'm just saying to you that just because you don't have perhaps a direct connection to that doesn't mean that you're not called to help bring wholeness to the people of this world. And this is where I need to say to you, quit playing small by sitting home in your houses every day, thinking, oh, well, that's happening there, but there's nothing I can do about it. Well, great for you to tell yourself that. Just make sure that you know that you've just totally bought into a lie. You're back on ego's QVC. Maybe it should be EVC, the ego's, what does QVC stand for?
Something channel.
Buying channel, right, exactly. You're welcome to the Ego Channel. And today on the Ego Channel, what do we have? harsh. Well, today we have absolute guilt and fear and shame. It's all on sale. I think we only have 5,000 of them left. You have to realize you have a much greater impact and influence, and there are things that you can do. Perceptions. How are you doing on perceptions? Perceptions about, do you think that you know what everybody's role is? Right now on the planet, it takes contrast to create movement sometimes, sadly enough. Sadly enough, many times it takes catastrophic events to bring people together. Doesn't mean it has to. It just means that at that time, that's where the consciousness was. In order to bring people together, we had to create something traumatic. I don't know about you, but I'm over having it have to be that way. To heal wounds, heal hearts that are just open. I don't know where all of you come from, and as far as where you were raised and the conditions you were raised in, or the stories that have been atrocities down your family lines. What I do know is you, where you sit right now, you have the power to bring healing. You know, in the Healing for Touch class that we teach and that we've taught, everybody wants to just, I just want to touch somebody, I want somebody to touch them, and poof, they're made whole. Yeah. So I can walk around in my Jesus gown. Now, you don't say it that blatantly, and in your heart, you don't mean it that blatantly, but guess what? Your ego has grabbed a hold of it, and it's co-opted it. And that's part of why your push of, I just want to do it. Really? How about if you do this? How about if you actually take your influence, your energy, your ancestors, you unite with others who have that same calling, you connect into some of the greatest wounds on the planet, and you help bring healing not to just one person who magically your hands go on. How about if you lift up and help people, help mend the wounds? We are to the point of human evolution, and guess what? We are on the front lines. The question is not, have I done enough? The question is, what can I do next? And that's where I call you to. I know that for many of us, we have been actively working on places where tectonic plates have been vulnerable. We have been working on water supplies. We have been working on all kinds of things for a lot of years. And I say to you, I hold the utmost respect and love for you to be willing to show up and be as participatory as you are. I rejoice and I hope that there's never a time ever that I don't, every single time that I see you, every single time, I hope that there's never a time that I don't want to walk up to you and give you the biggest hug. And you know, the biggest hugs I give you, they're not just because I miss seeing your face, but it's just my gratitude and my love for you, for who you are and all you do. Because you're so much more profound in your even your day-to-day basis than you know. When will I awaken? Where are our perceptions? And where are we getting stuck? What other kind of perceptions do you find for you? Whether it's perceptions about, when I think of this place in the world, this is my automatic thought. What are perceptions that you put on you, Sandy?
I'm going to say I think it's pretty easy to judge a person's, I don't know what the word is, it's going to sound really cool, but they're both intellectual level versus their heart.
Absolutely. Judging that perception of judging somebody's intellectual level instead of really judging the heart.
Like, for instance, I'm thinking specifically of like Downs.
Right.
They have the biggest ones.
Oh, totally. What I'll say that aloud in case everybody didn't hear it. Sandy was also saying, as an example, you take somebody with Down syndrome, there are so many people who look at them and automatically have a perception that they're just a wasted life that is just moving around. I don't know if you've ever known a Downs person. If you want to ever know and experience what complete unconditional love is, unconditional. They have come by soul's choice to stand as the purest light of love, knowing full well as souls that their physical bodies would be extremely limited. And yet as souls they came to be present anyway. How dare we? Do you know? But it's that stuff that we just automatically think. Yes, Pamela.
Can I share a story about that?
Please.
So exactly on that note and perception and judgment, in the house that I dwell in and have for several decades, that was a soul assignment for myself and my daughter particularly. There was a great deal of darkness and challenges that came to shape us. And the house across the street, there were 2 suicides sequentially in 5 years. And the family that moved in after the second suicide, the resident actually hanging herself in the garage. The family moved in, and within 6 months they were pregnant. And when the child was born the next summer, and I found out through someone else that the little boy had Down syndrome, I went into human pain, contraction, and I actually had that word come to me. Oh my God, this place is cursed, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then I went into meditation, and I got a deeper guidance feeling, and what I was told was, this child is an angel. And he came to this land with a greater perception. It was absolutely a divine assignment that a so-called, however we want to say,
right,
able-bodied child might have felt all of what was leaving, but he came as part of that family's assignment. And his name is Samuel.
Wow.
So I have to say that I just have to talk about that because to this day, he's 7 years old now, and he chose to come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can sit with our own human minds and our own human filters and say, why in the world did anybody choose that? What you don't understand is so many of the people who have had the most devastating interactions with you as well as the most amazing interactions with you, you've had this conversation with them as souls. Maybe somebody came and because there was an experience that was going to create or to shape you. And perhaps that experience wasn't a beautiful one, but at the end of the day, that soul very much came to help you. Gosh, I haven't shared this in a long time, but they're really pressing me, so I'm going to. Again, it's just about perceptions. It's time to see things from a bigger picture. So I had a stepdad when I was really young and went through an awful lot of abuse at his hands. And so interestingly enough, I fast forward now, and I'm an adult and I have my own children. He comes down with cancer, just eats him away. And I come to the point where he's towards the end of his life. He falls. And my mom wants to call the ambulance. He says, no, I will not let anybody take me to the hospital except for Kim. So my mom calls me. Now you talk about those kind of profound moments. So the irony of my mom calls me, and this man at this point in time is 87 pounds. It had just eaten him away. And he's not really lucid. And I picked him up in my arms like he was a little child. Now, what had he done to me when I was a little child? And so all of a sudden there's this huge moment for me. And in that moment, as I'm holding this 80-some-year-old man, or 80 pounds of man left, and he's mumbling, what did I ever do? What did I do to deserve this? And yada, 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 yada. My guidance was just like this huge weight of grace just came over me. And I knew in that moment, and I had never had the total clarity or personal experience in my life, that in that moment I could absolutely see him as a soul, not as who he was in his body, but as a soul talking with me and me saying, this is the soul's path and experience as I walk through this human life. And in order for that to shape the personality, I kind of come and talk to you about what I know it feels like to be vulnerable and to be absolutely taken advantage of and all of those things. I cannot talk to you about that if I did not know that myself. And so all of a sudden in that moment, I had this level of grace overcome me. And literally in that moment, I could see us, and I saw so clearly him just say to me, as a pure soul, I love you so much that I will come and be this vision of horrible experience. If that's what you desire. But please never forget who I really am. Because I'm going to have to be this really horrible experience. And I only agree to do this because you asked me to. And as that washed over me, I thought, holy cow. Now obviously if you've been in any kind of situation like that, it's not at all easy in the even remotest part to look at what happened in the experience and say, well, this person, from a soul level. But we're talking about perceptions, right? Mm-hmm. Who do you really know that person to be? Do you really know? Had I have never had the experience, I could not have been in the direction I am in this moment. I could not be talking with you. We could not have been working together for all of these years. Do you know? So while I don't ever want to do that again, can I just say for my soul's list, got it? Done, don't need to do that one again. But it's also about just our perception. What do we know? What do we know? All right, that's a heavy perception. Let's back off all of that. But your perceptions in general. What kind of things do you think that you look at and you take a perception on? Simply watch the news. Can you watch the news in a completely neutral state and you don't have any perception on anything? I mean, the fact none of you are talking is like, seriously? Because the bottom line, I actually know who you are, and I actually know all kinds of conversations and information about you. Oops. And while I will not totally call you out, everything's in balance. Yes, Kristen?
So things within families that interplay. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this was the pattern, and yet we still react the same way.
Yep.
I talk with my siblings sometimes. We talk about things that happened to us as children. And so there's 6 of us. And we have had 6 different experiences.
Absolutely.
In the same incident. And we say, is this really it?
Right, were you at that same time with me? I mean,
That's not how I remember it at all. And of course I'm right.
oh, of course. Well, absolutely you are.
That's what I was going to say.
My brother, sister, and I used to laugh and say, I don't know, Mom's version of what's happening, she's on like Mars someplace. Because we don't even know, they're not even on the same planet. Their vision of what happened and ours is, woo! So it is all about perception. It's about how do you perceive what's going on. When you talk about mastering things does not mean that completely changes the dynamics. But it's you who has the choice. You have the choice whether you can find peace with it and see the higher meaning so that you can actually bring to the situation that the situation created it to be. So you can bring to the situation what the situation actually created itself to be.
Jim, I think this is really cool because, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that's experienced this last couple of months. I mean, what you're saying, I can just see it now. I can actually look at where that happened. I mean, it's that is what, you know, what our ancestors have done to prepare us for this.
Absolutely. Because I'm asking you to take a journey with me, a continuing journey, but it's time for us to even take a bigger leap and bound. We finally have tools that we've had for a while, but we now have permission to start using them more on a global approach. And we are now at a time which we actually have permission to start really making an even greater and wider healing and impact. And part of that is we have to, if we cannot find peace here, how can we possibly ever find peace out here? How does that happen? It cannot. It cannot. And you can't correct what you don't even know is going on. So what other kind of perceptions? It's helpful for us to talk out loud with them because there may be things going on with somebody else that their ego is keeping them from even being able to articulate it. Yes, Pat.
I thought I've worked through this, I don't know how many times, but it just, some of the things you said this first couple of days, and that a name came up in my mind of when I was going through divorce.
Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, so for the ones eating downstairs at the restaurant, right? We have two lists. These are two different tables, right? So we have a table for 100 and 200. So I put your name down for 100. So when you go downstairs,
Okay.
just tell them you're in the 100.
Okay.
And then it'll make it laugh, and it's very smooth, a lot smoother for the.
Okay.
And one
Does everybody know what he's talking about on the list?
No, not a clue.
Yeah. So grab your names. Whoever ordered in the restaurant, grab your names on the list here.
Okay.
So it has two categories, 100 and 200. It just represents the two different tables they're going to be sitting at.
So give us a name as to who's on 100,
So for
200.
example, table 200 has Jody, Jan and Bill, Mary Ann, Jim, Pam, Kristen, Dana, Jean Ann, Amy Hansen.
Okay,
You guys would be 200.
excellent.
And then the other ones, Peggy, Margaret, Joelle, Monty, Jan, Mary Ann Bennett, Ann, Susan, Linda, Ann, and Louise. You guys are 100.
Awesome.
Perfect. And one last one, sorry. And the ones for the IRD one, I guess you know who you are. For the room one, room
Yep.
service, it will be about 1 o'clock, just because they're falling behind.
Okay.
So yeah, any more questions? Or
I didn't mention my name.
what was your name?
Oh, that,
Marcia, we're upstairs.
Oh, we're upstairs.
Oh, okay.
never mind.
Okay, perfect, guys. I'll leave a list here just in case you guys need to double check.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, fine, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, it is a perception about exactly what we're talking about. So, Pat, go ahead. You were talking about somebody who came to you.
A name kept popping up to me, and I thought.
Can everybody hear her back there? When you talk, stand up and turn for me, please. Thank you.
Oh, okay. A couple of times, things have been popping up for me about this one person, and it was my ex-husband's nephew. And when I went through the divorce, things that he did to me just tore me up. I wanted to go over to his house, and this is exactly how I felt, and I wanted to kill him and his wife, and I'm not teasing. I mean, it was such mean and nasty things that he did in my perception, like closing out all of our bank accounts, because he was the vice president of the bank, and signing my husband's name to it, who had Alzheimer's. And not giving me my mail that was coming to my husband in the nursing home I had put him in.
Okay, let's
Et
stick,
cetera.
yeah, let's,
Okay.
I don't wanna get into the drama, trauma, and
Yes.
turmoil, cause how many of you are already buying it in with her? Go
All
ahead.
right, it was a wonderful situation.
No, but horrific is fine.
Okay, horrific situation. And I'm realizing that he came to teach me some lessons, and I still have to work through them. But I feel like he kept coming up even in the ancestors last night, even though I think he's still alive. But it's the clearing out of all this gunk and garbage that needs to be done before we can truly move on and be who we truly are.
Yep. All right, very good, thanks. You know, and it's interesting too, sometimes situations, again, bad situations happen to you. And it's not just about you. Those situations can also be repeating situations that have happened down your ancestral line time after time after time after time after time. And you ended up in those situations, or the ancestors ended up in those situations time after time after time. And you're finding a challenge resolving it because it's not just your perception of it you're resolving. Once you understand, it's I not only have to manage my perception of it, I need to bring wholeness. And there's your key. It's not just about healing it and making it go away. We need to bring wholeness to it. Linda.
So, I hope I can verbalize this correctly, but perception and memory. So like, we're talking about those family dynamics and everybody remembers it differently. Well, then there's the ones that can't remember it at all. And for me, it becomes harder to forgive when it can't even be acknowledged. And I guess I was just wondering if you could speak to that perception versus can't even remembering it at all.
That's a really good point. So there are times that, you're going to be up against somebody who just has zero memory of anything that happened whatsoever. And when you're the one who is still trying to find the balance and find the wholeness with it, your role and your key here is, it's not about ever being able to get an apology from somebody else. We cannot wait for somebody else to give us what we need before we can close the book on it. Because you deserve to be happy long before that. So if we're working with somebody with whom they have no memory whatsoever, it's like it didn't even totally exist. Your happiness is not, and your peace is not contingent on, and it cannot be contingent on getting something from somebody else to make you whole. The point of managing it is now finding your own peace and your own wholeness from this. For the situation that I encountered as a child, interestingly enough, I had cornered my mom on this multiple times. And she has had absolutely, to the day she died, zero memory of anything ever happening. Zero memory of me confronting her multiple times, zero memory out of any of it. So if I had waited for that acknowledgement, I would have, could never find balance. It makes it a little bit more challenging, but certainly, whether people are already past and you're just never going to get what it is that your heart needs or the human heart needs, it's about taking that perception and finding balance. And how has that situation that occurred to you influenced your life? It'll either have a positive influence or detrimental influence. No matter whether it ended up being a positive influence or detrimental influence, at the end of the day, you do not have to sit with it as it is, unless you find it very peaceful. You're really now at a time where, again, we have tools where you sit today that we didn't even have access to 3 months ago. time and access points are moving so quickly. And so it becomes hard to say, well, how come I haven't been able to get rid of it before? You could clear it out to the best you can at that time. So when we have those kind of things, we have to just do what we can and take responsibility for where we're at and how we are managing that. It's just like the old programming is in your own head. You know, oftentimes somebody who upset us, they can't even remember they upset us. But we hang on to it and obsess about it over and over and over again. We chew on it like a dog with a bone for years. And the more you chew on it, the worse it gets.
Something I recently read, that's like taking rat poison yourself and expecting the rat to die.
Boy, that's good. You know, chewing on a memory like that is like taking rat poison. You take rat poison, you ingest it, hoping that the rat's going to die. You're the only one dying because you just ingested the rat poison. I love that. That's so true. You know, in those situations that just churn and churn and churn and churn. Somebody in the back, Nancy, please.
I just want to thank you for sharing your story. Again, it brought a huge amount of grace for a situation in my childhood to an ancestor. Thank you.
Very good. You know, it's never easy at any point in time to get, you know, there's a lot of years it takes for us to even get to this point, you know? But what a profound thing when we can get to that point and then really bring real peace to it. Susan.
I just wanted to say, and what Mary said was beautiful about her sisters. We have these things happen, and perception, we bury that in our subconscious, and we make judgments based on what we understand from that perception that we buried in our subconscious. And I have learned what's helpful for me is, okay, that was my perception of what happened, but was that really the truth of what happened?
Right.
And when I ask myself, how do I know what the truth was? Just because I buried this perception of it, is that really the truth? And that's really helped me free myself from what if what I remember isn't even true?
Right.
And it's helped me really move forward and let go of, I'm not letting go of that person who did this, who was, you know?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
So it's really been helpful for me.
And the next step to that is even the perception of what you thought back then. You cannot hold that person who stands in front of you today. You cannot hold that person not even 1%. Because who that person is as they stand there today may be a very different person. And if we hang on to our perception, we will never even allow ourselves to see the change. Would you want somebody to hold you in that same space as who you were 20 years ago? Is that who you are today? Being pigeonholed with who you were 20 years ago? How many of us have the snapshot of our parents at a certain age? Your parents certainly hold a snapshot of you at a certain age, and then many parents hold you to that. In their mind, you're 8 years old, and no matter whether you're 60, you're still 8. Yes, please.
Just to check if I'm on the same page, could you say the wholeness you're talking about is initiated by our total unconditional love and acceptance and forgiveness and that of those around us, and it is achieved by grace?
That would be a perfect balance point to it. Would you like to say it again slowly so people can write that down?
Wholeness is initiated by total unconditional love and acceptance and forgiveness of those around us.
Thank you, that's beautiful.
It is achieved by grace.
Again,
It is achieved by grace. It's the last sentence.
Could you say it again?
Could you repeat the entire thing so that we can check, please?
Wholeness is initiated by total unconditional love and acceptance and forgiveness of those around us. And it is achieved or completed by grace.
We use the word grace, we hear the word grace, but how interesting. Grace can be so many things. Yes, please, Alan.
I have a question about that sentence. Seems it's easy to say than do.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so what will be the mechanism for us to achieve that goal?
So we're going to teach you something called resequencing.
What's that?
Resequencing. Resequencing the past. After lunch, we're going to talk a little bit more and dig up some more stuff for ourselves, and then we're going to teach you a tool called resequencing the past. In resequencing the past, what occurs here is the actual dynamic and the event does not change. However, the influence and effect that happened through every single person, through every single lineage, all the way down to where we are today, the effect that occurred changes. And so, by all means, you're right. It is so much easier to say than do. You know, even if we keep trying, we get into that mindset, I'm willing to finally have grace and wholeness. I really want to have grace and wholeness. Really want to have grace and wholeness. And we're holding that space until we can click it in. And sometimes it is still just too painful. It is just still too imbalanced for us to actually, genuinely feel it and take it in. And have no more heat about it. Have no more judgment about it. And so the change can come. Robert, did you have something, honey?
So are you saying after that, my perception vantage point of, I like to call them some bitches.
So again, one more interruption. So apparently you're out of kale down the restaurant. It's so popular, I guess everyone and that's so whoever ordered the kale salad, you know who you are. If possible, can maybe when you're down the restaurant, let them know, and then you can order something else on the spot, and then it won't be too long.
Are you all right for any other lettuce to be other than kale?
Yeah.
Yes or no to those ordering kale? So just tell them whatever lettuce they have, it's all good.
Yeah, you just that Caesar salad or anything, that house salad.
Chicken salad.
Chicken salad? Awesome. And your name was?
Anybody else have the kid? Jim.
So again, just communicate that with the server downstairs.
Out of this world, into the world. Out of the world, into the world. Out of the world.
Yes, broken up. Nobody's upset that there's no kale.
No, we will not take spears and forks and ravage the kitchen. No. Thank you. Yeah, we do have this hook right here. We were talking about what could be hung.
Person who ordered.
You get one of those little jumpsuit things, and you slide your whole body into it. You just like swing back and forth from it. He totally doesn't know what to do with us, and that's awesome. Do you have any idea the influence that having even this group here is on everybody else in the hotel?
Canadian bar.
Yeah.
Taxes.
The taxes.
Oh, good.
Nice. We used to laugh all the time when we were kids in different situations, you know, people thought you were weird anyway and that you could do all these crazy things. And so we used to laugh sometimes when people would just really press us and say, look, we will turn you into a toad. Back off. We'll turn you into a toad.
Just a second.
Well, you know, people, the human nature really is to fear what you don't understand. And if somebody is different than you, and you've never known anybody else who is as different as this other person is, then perception, they perceive and put you in a box. You've all been put in boxes, and people have put labels on you, who they think you are. And we have done the same to others. And this must change.
Humans are a funny lot, and we all have trouble with that whole thing of somebody being different than you. I mean, and my whole experience of this last year is people don't know what to do with me. People have disappeared from my life, and I'm always surprised who's actually stayed and showed up. And it's on many levels. It's not just what you look like, but what experience you have. Or maybe they'll catch it.
Well, after a while, people just don't know what to say. And they mean well, but they don't want to make it worse, and they're concerned they make it worse and so they don't want to make it worse, so they just decide not to say anything, which makes it worse. Yeah, it is. It's tough.
So what do we do as individuals with that?
Give them the word.
Well, you can give them the words, but first and foremost, it's about being able to free that energetic box that people put around you. And that's, you know, that's part of doing some of that resequencing work, to be able to clear that out. You know, for the longest time, anybody, you know, when when you're different from anybody else and you see things that other people don't see, then part of it is they treat you like a clown in a circus, right? And I'm not a dog and pony show. And so, and in different people's lives, different people do that to you in a whole host of ways. And the first step is not to change them. The first step is, if I'm getting boxed somewhere, I'm allowing that to be boxed because I'm not standing as my authentic self to the best I know right now. Even when we're in grief and sadness, we have to at least stand and say, look, this is who I am, and this is where I'm at right now. I may not be my best self right now. It may be everything I can do to just stand here. And I really don't need you to fix me to all my friends around me. All I really need you to do is just come and be present with me. Just be present. Don't need you to uplift me necessarily, just be present. When things like that happen, we don't know how to deal with it. Linda, you were talking about.
I was thinking about, there's a show, and I just love it, it's called The Voice. I don't know how many people here watch it. But, you know, the judges have their backs to the people when they first start out, so they don't know what they look like.
Right.
All they hear is just that little spark of their voice, of their soul that they catch. And then until they turn around, they don't know what they're gonna get, you know, so they're not judging by what they look like. You know, they're just hearing something in them.
Here's the beauty of that show. You can actually look at the judges. They have a national camera on them that is showing the world their reaction.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they have to catch themselves. Because with their backs turned, they fall in love with the voice. They turn around, they see the person, and you can see them have an instant reaction.
Yes.
And then they choose whether they're going to stick to that reaction or just stick to what they heard. So on TV, you can watch them actually have that switch. And they're on TV live, so they know, hey, you know what, everybody's watching me, so I can't be a complete idiot and, you know, say I don't want them on my team once I actually see them. So it is an interesting dynamic. Judy?
That sort of sounds like the Fortune 500.
Yeah.
When you have a perception, but you give them a set of stuff that's things you can check on people for.
Absolutely.
And then you go by your gut.
Absolutely. Yeah, at the end of the day, you can have all the statistics and information you want, and many people will still go by what their gut instinct or what their perception is. All right, I'm not going to continue to belabor this anymore, but I do want you to really consider what kind of perceptions do you have, and please write those down. Do you get perceptions? Do you find yourself automatically watching the television and getting yourself rabble-roused by listening to what somebody says? You know, the news media, this side says this, and that side says this, and this you know, racial event is happening, and this catastrophic event is happening, and you know, these people are living here, and nobody will take these people here, and they're doing this to our lands, and you know, what kind of things do you find that you get caught in? What are those perceptions you get caught in? Because at the end of the day, we cannot successfully overcome them by hitting them head to head. You've got to get up over top of it and see the bigger picture. The highest vibration rules the day. Will you help hold the highest vibration for the best outcome? Because even if there is 100,000 people with a lower vibration, it only takes a few with the higher vibration to help bring up the conversation. It makes it automatically come up. But you see, you can't even stand up there if we're caught in the perception ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you get it? Go ahead.
So I was watching some of the videos that were posted on Facebook for that North Dakota Indian thing, and watching those troopers move in, and I was just so angry. I wanted to shoot them because they're such bullies and putting the dogs on, you know. And so what do you do? I mean, I was trying to be in the observant mode. That usually helps me if I could just observe and watch or try not to judge it. But I don't know if that's enough to change it, because I guess
No, that's not enough to change it, but I can certainly tell you exactly what to do with it. Step number one. You know, step number one, and I don't want to totally get into the cause and effect, but I'll clarify this one. Step number one is you get on your platform, you put all of the police on one side, same platform, all of the folks that are having all of the Indians and all of the conflict, you put them all on the same platform. And step number one, you put drains underneath them, because you've got to drain off the illusion and the hate and the anger. People cannot see clearly when they have anger fusing all over it. There is no common sense. There is no way that communication is going to be heard. Step number one is I'm draining all that crap off of you. I'm not going to let your hate, I'm not going to let your vengeance stay. I'm going to calm and simmer that thing down. But you know, if there's not enough, there's agitators on both sides. This is like a washing machine. Yeah. If you have a washing machine that's only agitating on one side, that washing machine is probably walking across your laundry room. Right? There's agitation on both sides, and each person justifiably, in their mind, believe that their perception, that they are seeing everything that needs to be seen. And we humans are a funny lot. And the very best thing that we can start to do, instead of not having any opportunity to create an opening for what I would call a miracle to happen, which in this case would mean something along the lines of enough of the heat is calmed down off of both sides. I've drained off the greed. And I just want to come together and communicate. I need you to hear. I need to hear you. I cannot judge you and listen to you at the same time. You cannot effectively, truly listen to somebody while your mind is judging them. If you think that you're listening, oh, I'm a good listener, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Especially because, I'm sorry, but I can see so many conversations that actually happen. Not just listen to them, witness them, but I can actually watch them up in your field and stuff. And it's amazing, and there's no judgment to it, because you can't learn to do it a different way until you even recognize what's happening in the first place. You cannot actually listen and judge somebody at the same time. The judgment has to stop. Marcia.
There was another video where a Native American woman said, "We have come here to pray." And they got into a line and went up to each policeman, looked them in the eye with love, and shook their hand. And it totally diffused that particular occurrence. I don't know where in this whole process it happened, but.
Absolutely. And, at the end of the day, there are situation after situation after situation after situation. And unfortunately, what's happening here is the frequency is rising, and it is absolutely sparking people to react in whatever way is the most open wound for them. Open wound. So, the police situations that happen in Ferguson, Missouri. You look at all these different actions. What's happening here is what's festering. What's festering is an open wound here and an open wound here. So all of a sudden, what they're doing is they're reacting off of each other stabbing each other in the wound. Do you know what I'm saying? Solutions cannot happen there. The key is to rise above it and actually start to create the environment, the literal environment, where all of a sudden, instead of it bringing out the most painful part of each group, all of a sudden it starts to bring out the heart in each group. It can be done. It has been done, and it will be done. Will you help us do that? That's the only question. And none of us is perfect. It's not like any of us are totally washed out of all our perception. The only thing we can do is every single day be as mindful as we can to stay in as clear current as we possibly can. All right. We've got just about 15 minutes before the first group is supposed to get their lunch at 12:30 and the next group at 1. So perceptions. Let me just kind of complete this conversation about perceptions. Please tell me out loud, share with us, what are some of the other perceptions that you think you get caught in? What about perceptions about yourself? Kristen.
I don't fit in my family. My family doesn't know me. They don't understand me. But have I ever actually told them who I am?
That's a big one. I don't fit in my family. My family does not understand me. But then again, I've never really told my family who I am. Louise.
How can I show people who I really am? Okay? Because every time I talk to somebody, there's this little mini ego saying, do they see me? I see them. Do they see me? So it's a constant question, does somebody see who I am? And why am I asking, do they see me? Do I not trust who they are? Do I not trust in who I am? Where's that question coming from?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I see you. Are you seeing me? Are you seeing me? And it's especially when it comes, when something sits that deep within you, and you hear that same statement in over and over and over again in different situations. That's going to tell you automatically that this point, especially in this particular scenario, about, I see you, do you see me? I'm trying to tell you who I am, are you listening? Because most people, I would say, how many people feel that in situations in their life, with their families, at work, things like that, that people don't really hear you? Raise your hand. How many people feel like people don't really hear you? So that's an awful lot of folks. And so, with that question, a lot of that ends up coming, this is an awful lot of ancestral stuff, of a long legacy of either being boxed in, burned down, shut down, of just not being seen. Because fear, human fear, we fear what we do not understand. And so what do we need to conquer? When it's something that's ancestral like that, I'm just going to tell you, it's not just about resolving it with the first person who's in front of you giving you conflict. If you're dealing with something, an issue that stays with you over and over again, and it shows up when you're having a friendship over here, the issue shows up. When you're having something over here, the issue shows up. When you're having it here, the issue shows up. When an issue starts showing up in multiple places, honey, that's not just your issue. You're actually working that issue for an awful lot of lines down your ancestor, a long legacy of that you're now called to stand here and bring peace. So when you look at let's say hypothetically, Louise, that you had one particular person in mind that you were thinking of. It's not just about helping that one person see you, because even if that one person saw you, it would not make that conversation go away. Do you understand what I'm saying? So what would have to happen is you have to actually bring that conversation to completion. We need to bring it back and wrap it around and bring it into wholeness. And we've never been in a time more profound where we have more ability to actually start completing these cycles. Complete the cycle. Bring it together, bring it back into unity, bring wholeness here, complete the cycle. Wow. Yes, Pam.
So, if you could speak to a little bit to what awakening is, and I will say it by way of this perception, because it's called, is it walking in awakening?
Walking into awakening.
So it seems to me that that's a step-by-step process.
Mm-hmm.
So is awakening a dimmer switch, or is it an on? Is it different for different people? And I guess my perception that came up with thinking about that is, just as we spoke about the grace and forgiveness around relationships, having a perception sometimes that I've failed in a certain way to the outer world, how things might look by way of some 3D
of course.
Trappings around things, but when I really go deep in the process,
yes,
everything has been absolutely perfect. Even the sand
spot on.
And the oyster is really creating this pearl. So as you said, when do I awaken? There was a part of me that went, I'd like you to speak to that, because that almost feels like an egoic question, because I'm not there yet, it's something I have to achieve, and that just might be me, but I'd just like to know about that dimmer switch, on, off.
I love that visual. That is the best visual ever. That is the best visual ever. Is the awakening like a dimmer switch? Like I have to slowly keep turning the light on higher? Or can I just turn it on and off? So first off, I'm going to say to you, there is not one specific way that everybody awakens. And let me tell you why. Or at least let me explain to you in the best understanding that I have been given at this point. Awakening can happen instantaneously for people. Those people did not have a soul's calling to be constantly interactive in the evolution process. In their own way, in their lives, they were contributing by having interactions with other people and they were helping the scene progress. Not everyone was meant to be as consciously, day-to-day, interacting in bringing things away. Not everybody had to hike the mountain. Some people just got shot out of a cannon and they end up on the mountaintop. And for all of those people, those of us who have had our hiking boots on for a really long time, in our own humanness, want to stop and say, that sucks.
You wanna say thank you.
Yes, that's what I meant. We want to say thank you. But the dimmer switch concept, it all depends on who you are as a soul. As a soul, there are many of us who came very specifically. Awakening for the entire planet could never be an on-off switch. For those souls that were called, it has been an ongoing turning the dimmer switch up. We are just about to the point where the light is all the way on high. Can you fail at this? You cannot fail at this. So you decide to jump out early. Yeah. There's not a right or wrong. You can either choose to complete it again. You know, life so much to me is like a video game. You know, you play a video game, you get a certain amount of lives, and if you go through and you burn those lives, you know, at the end of the game, the only thing the game ever asks you is, do you want to play again? It does not go, all right, let's take an evaluation of how you played. Level 1, you really messed that one up. It doesn't go through the evaluation like that. The only thing it does, it gets to the end of the game and goes, do you want to play again? Well, heck yeah. I'm not let this thing conquer me. Right? I mean, that may be a very simplified version, but kind of in essence, from a bigger picture, sorry, but that's kind of what happens. Now, the dimmer switch factor of it, I guarantee you, not every single generation in your lineage, not every single generation walked the walk up the hill. For me, I'm aware of much of my heritage on the healing side. Well, I have healing on both sides, but on the one that I primarily drive down. But even so, not every generation. You can look down my lineage and you have, you know, because these people went, you know, to such wacky-doodle extents. You have, you know, them taking it to, you had everybody doing really great and really helping spiritually, you know, and they were healers and they were the shamans and they were blah, 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 blah. And then they got greedy. And then for X amount of generations, like they took everything. They robbed from the church. They went from one. Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, absolutely. We're just going to do it all. We're going to take that power. We're going to totally abuse it. We're going to control people with it. And then you hit for the next certain amount of generations where everybody's like, oh my God, we got to write this. I'm simplifying it, obviously. But for all of us, don't estimate that just you as a healer, that, you know, you're the only person. Even when you walk through your whole life not even knowing that you've been a healer since the day you were born, you just never knew it. But if you turn around and look at your life, I could walk you through different interactions in every single year of your life and show you exactly the ripple effect of what you said, what you did, and how it had an effect. Every single life, every single year of your life. And how fast we are as humans and as egos to turn around and judge those years. I had plenty of years that I am not specifically proud of my reaction. To do it over again, would I do it? Would I not do it? Would I? No. I would have liked to react differently in a few situations, but at the end of the day, it all made me who I am. It's all the driving factor for you. And the only one who's judging you is you. All right. So dimmer switch, I'm sorry, gang, but we're a dimmer switch kind of folk. We were part of the souls that said, yes, I have a backpack. I have a strong back. I'm a Sherpa. More importantly, yes, I will show up in a body. I will bring to you a very open heart. I will care. I will care for people. I will be of service. I'm willing to take some bumps, and I'm willing to keep walking through to find my best way through it so that I can help other people make the best way through it in their lives. So for that, we the hikers, I don't know. The hike could have been good, bad, or indifferent, but at the end of the day, the good news is we kept walking. And you're just about ready to crest the peak of the hill and bring to completion the path that has been being walked from your generations for thousands of years. You are finally the one who gets to come to the top of the hill and plant your flag.
Yay.
Yes.
Do you think that?
I don't think at all. It hurts.
Does your heart feel? Know when we've arrived? I mean, are we gonna?
You will know beyond a shadow of a doubt. You and your body, before you cross over, you're going to have plenty of years that you will know for a fact, without zero hesitation, that you actually were able to make it to the very top and plant the flag. That's a good visual. They never gave me that visual before. I kind of like it. Susan.
I love this conversation. It just so makes sense. I have spent most of my life perceiving that I have not seen and heard. And what it led me to was, do I really see and hear myself? And when I've gone inside and done that, it's part of my awakening to who I really am. So I've been turning the dimmer switch up.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out I love hiking.
What do you know about that?
Well, physically and all the rest.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting as I look at that, I don't feel I'm awakened, but I'm a lot more awakened to who I am than I was most of my life. So I don't feel I'm there.
Right.
But I'm well on my way because I'm open to that. And every time I have a question or somebody doesn't see or hear me, I go inside and say, okay, what's really going on?
Totally.
It's never about them.
Totally.
So I just wanted to share that. 'Cause
Very
it's
good.
coming by.
Very good. Kristen, last one, then we're going to go to lunch.
Your comment about cresting the hill has actually brought up a lot of fear in me.
Okay?
So, we're not such big fans of roller coasters, and we did a virtual roller coaster one time, and we bounced off of each other, and we hit the emergency kill switch just as we were hitting the top. We didn't even crest the top.
And we were looking at a screen this big, but
Sitting in a chair, it's a video game. And the panic attack, and we've laughed about this for years, but that came up when you said that we're about to crest the hill. And I'm picturing this fake roller coaster that's all an illusion, and yet terrified us.
So the question would then be to ask to your ancestors and your beings, what is the fear and the terror about cresting the hill? Because it's not just you need to ask. Because this depth of terror and fear is not just yours. Absolutely. You need to ask your ancestors, what is the fear and the terror about that wants to keep you from cresting the hill? That terror and that fear, because there's actually terror there in this scenario. There's total terror there. What is that terror about? What is that fear about? All right, ancestors, I've agreed to stand here and hold that space and help bring it together. But we've got to have a powwow here. Because I can't keep hiking up this hill if you keep dragging me backwards. Because down the ancestral line, all of a sudden they recognize, holy crap, we're going to crest the field. Ah! Bam! Down at the bottom you find yourself feeling all rumbled going, what in the world just happened? Anything that's like that, any kind of concern like that, things like that that come up, it's important that this is not just about you. And if you try to figure it out in just your own context, you're probably going to miss 98% of it. You got to recognize, guess what? You are a far bigger being than you think. And I'm sorry to tell you, but you came to tackle some stuff. And we just happen to be in the best boxing club.
Well, and I think that shows how we think our mind can fix it. Because both of us are terrorized by roller coasters. We saw this and said, we can do that one, let's do it. And it turns out we couldn't.
Wow.
So it was.
But it was the best 2 pounds we ever spent.
That's interesting. How many other people have fear of roller coasters? Raise your hand.
I get nauseous.
If you actually do have a fear of roller coasters, you might want to actually take that conversation to your ancestors.
Who loves them?
Yes! When I get to a roller coaster park, I tackle the biggest, baddest roller coaster in the entire park first.
But I still get scared.
Oh my God, every single time I'm rolling up that first hill, my human is screaming, I'm gonna die! What are you doing this for? We're gonna totally go off the other edge. Every single time. Every time. And it only takes me cresting the top and starting to go, ah! I'm like, oh, I still know what this is about.
Yeah.
Susan and Kristen had a couple ancestors that were Carney.
All right. Let me just repeat that to the rest of the room in case you missed it.
Lunch.
I know, we're going to be lunch.
I'm just reminding you.
She's the watch
Clock.
So what Robert said is, couldn't it be something more simple, this whole terror about cresting a hill? Couldn't it just be something that a couple of your ancestors down the road were carnies? And maybe they set a roller coaster up wrong or something, and I don't know, people went up, they died, I don't know, and now you're paying the karmic balance for it. It could be. It could happen.
It could happen.
What time is it?
12:38.
All right, it is 20 minutes to 1 right now. 20 minutes to 1, 20 minutes to 2. We will see you at 2 o'clock.